Chapter 5, Identifying and Analyzing Domestic and International Opportunities, so home and abroad. So as a brief introduction, in order to expand a venture, the entrepreneur should identify opportunities for domestic and international expansion. Now with the e-commerce like we talked about in Chapter 4, that's become more easy than ever. You can sell to pretty much anyone in the world who has an internet connection now. The distinction between foreign and domestic markets is becoming less pronounced because of this. The pressure to internationalize is being felt in virtually every organization, including with entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. So we need to have an opportunity assessment plan. So what is that? Again, these are high-level overviews. This does not replace the reading, so make sure you're getting your detail there. But an opportunity assessment plan is the key to a profitable domestic and international venture. So the key is to develop an idea that has a large, reachable market. So you want to be able to sell to more people than less. An opportunity assessment plan differs from a business plan. It's shorter than a business plan. It focuses on the opportunity, not the venture itself. The plan has no pro forma financial statements. I bet you wish we'd have done that instead of this. To me, that's the hardest part of a business plan. It is also the basis of a decision to act on what should be an opportunity, or wait, that's not me, that's the publishers there. It should be an opportunity. Should you act on it now or should you wait? The opportunity assessment plan has 4 sections, 2 major sections and 2 minor sections. Let's take a look at this a little closer. So the opportunity assessment plan, the major sections. The first major section includes the following: a description of your product or service, the market need for the product or service, specific aspects of the product or service, products currently filling the need, features and their prices, their features and their prices, not yours, but looking at the competitive landscape, competitive companies in the industry, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, where could you attack them, unique selling propositions of the product, so why are people buying this now? And then the second major section begins with the following: the market need filled. So how do you fill a need in the existing market? Is there a hole in the market that you can fill? The social condition of the underlying market need, any available data to describe this market need, size, trends, and characteristics of the market, and the growth rate of the market. Is this something that's a dying market? Is it a flat market? Is it something that's going to have explosive growth, which would be ideal? Then we start looking at the third section. We're looking at these minor sections now. So those were the major sections. Now let's look at the minor sections. A third section answers the following questions: why does this opportunity excite you? Be detailed. How does this product idea fit into your background and experience? What business skills do you and your team have? What business skills are needed? Where are you short? You're not going to have everything. What do you need to acquire? Who do you need to hire? What needs do you need to fill? Do you know someone who has these skills that could possibly be brought in on the plan? The final section is a timeline, which should be a single word, focusing on the following. That timeline, you want to identify each step. What do you need to do to get to from where you are to where you want to be? Determine the sequence of those activities, and then identify what is accomplished in each step. How are you taking steps in the right direction for your business? Determine the time and money needed at each step. Be realistic. Determine the time and money needed. So you got each step, and then overall the time and money needed. So is this a 6-month plan, 6-year plan? Is this a $600 need? Is this a $600,000 need? You need to be able to identify that. And then identify the source of this needed money. Are you taking out a loan? Are you going to take an investment? Are you going to bootstrap it? What is it? Now, here's some helpful sources, and there goes into the reading goes into much more detail. But SCORE is a nonprofit providing free online and in-person assistance through training, consulting, and mentoring. Small business development centers, they're kind of all over. Provide counseling, training, and technical assistance when you start a new venture. And you can get general information from sources like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Center. They have a ton of free resources. So you have to take the time to learn. So if you build your knowledge, you can have some advantages built in. There are other valuable websites, I'm going to say assets, websites that exist, including the Small Business Investor Alliance, the Natural Venture Capital Association, and the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. So there's all kinds of resources out there. Keep in mind, you can click on these and get links. The slides are actually provided in the course folders online. So what about industry and market information? Plunkett provides industry data, research, market research trends, statistics on markets and forecasts. Frost and Sullivan provides very specific information about industries. Euromonitor provides information on companies and brands as well as consumer market and market parameters when you're looking internationally. Gartner provides information on technology markets, so if you're looking at purely technology. And the Gale Directory Library provides industry statistics and directory of nonprofit organizations and associations. Google is your friend, but these are some specific sites, and I've got some additional ones coming up that you could look into. So when we do these business plans, and I'm looking for information about your industry and about your market, and you're like, I can't find the statistics. I just gave you this page. I'm going to point you back to it and say, yeah, I've given you a lot of information. So when you're looking at competitive company and product information, the Business Source Complete has a company and industry information in their data monitor reports. You have Hoover's, which provides information on both large and small companies with links to competitors in a NAICS category. That's kind of like their industry category. Mergent is awesome. Has detailed company and product information on U.S. and international companies. However, you have to pay for Mergent separately. But if it was something you're looking to get down on and want to get some solid information, Mergent has a ton. What about some more free type sources? Government sources, because your taxes have already paid for them. You might as well use them in other information sources. The government sources include census reports. You have the Export-Import Authority, which can give data on international trade. Again, the NAICS and the SIC codes we call SIC codes that you can all pull for free. You can use search engines and pair key terms with general online information. Some trade associations do market surveys and are involved in international standards. There's an article on just about every one of these things. Trade publications provide interesting information and insights on trends, companies, market conditions within their industry. So there is a load of data out there. You just have to take the time to go find it and then dissect it and then digest it and then put it in your research in this class. The nature and importance of international business. International entrepreneurship is the process of conducting business across national boundaries. It may consist of exporting, licensing, and opening a sales office in another country. The U.S. is a relative newcomer to international business. We're such a large market. Most of it's been domestic, but it's expanding over time. Foreign investors have really come in this market and helped build much of the early U.S. industrial base. The future commercial strength of the U.S. depends on entrepreneur success in markets outside of the U.S. Not only inside, but outside the U.S. And keep in mind, entrepreneurs employ like over 90% of people in this economy. And people think, nah, it's big companies for sure. Nope. Go check that data. International business is important to firms of all sizes now because it is really with the advent of the rise of the mobile phone, the internet, it's become much more accessible. Successful entrepreneurs understand how international business differs from domestic business and respond accordingly. There's things like cultural differences. We offer a whole concentration at North Greenville undergraduate program in international business. It's all about understanding all the different markets and things you can do here that you can't do there, etc. It's important to realize that. Not everything's going to sell the same. International versus domestic entrepreneurship. All entrepreneurs are concerned with sales, costs, and profits. What varies is the relative importance of the factors. So each one of them takes a different weighting, but then sometimes you're more concerned about one over the other given what's going on in the international market. Decisions are complex due to uncontrollable factors. I mean, you're dealing with different governments, different types of customers, different everything. You can do a pest analysis, which is PEST, which is useful when exploring international business opportunities. These are looking at the political landscape, the public policy, who influences policy workers, are there wars influencing things, government stability. You look at the economy, you look at the economic aspect of it, what's the taxation situation, monetary policy, distribution. You get things like inflation, distributive challenges in a, let's say, smaller economy. How do they send things? By rail, by air, by truck? How do these things work? What are the trends in that economy? Are things looking up? Okay, growing economy. Things looking down? Okay, shrinking economy. Might not want to go after it. You have to look at social. So you got to look at culture. You're going to look at language, psychographics, ethics, and major events. Sometimes places do business differently, and that can benefit you, and sometimes they can take your property. So you got to be aware of the social aspect of it. And then the technical aspect. Technological capabilities vary from country to country, and products should reflect the country's infrastructure. So you can't go selling electric vehicles in a very poor nation. It's just not going to work out for you because they don't have the infrastructure to support it. we're in first world and we barely have the infrastructure to support it. So again, make sure when you're looking at international opportunities versus domestic, you're looking at PEST, political, economic, social, and technological considerations. Again, culture is a big deal. Culture refers to the common ways of thinking and behaving. It's different in different places of the world. Culture is learned behavior and identifies with the individual and society. Cultural aspects may prove to be difficult. They include language. So sometimes a word in English might actually be a different offensive word in another country, or vice versa. Social structure, what's acceptable, what's not. How do people in charge deal with people who are looking to sell there? You don't want to offend them. Religion, politics, education, manners and customs, and aesthetics. I feel like we have a lot of this in the U.S. between states. West Coast is very different from the Southeast versus the Northeast, etc. Available distribution channels. What are the distribution channels we touched on lightly earlier within a targeted country? That can be a challenge. To select the best channel of distribution, consider the following. Overall sales potential. Is it worth it? Amount and time of competition, cost of the product, geographic size and density of a country, investment policies of a country, exchange rates, monetary controls, because that could cut all your margin right there. Level of political risk. Are they about to be taken over? It's a problem. Okay? And the overall marketing plan and how it's going to reach and touch home when you're hitting a different culture. So what are my motivations for going global? Profits are the most significant reasons for going global. It's a bigger market. You make more money. Profitability is lower due to cost of preparing to go global, underestimating the costs involved, or losses due to mistakes. You better have good info, because you go in there and, I didn't really think about this. That can shut you down overnight. So sales to other markets is another reason to go global. So domestic markets may be leveling or even declining, but let's say another market overseas in Asia is still growing. You can get in on that and make even more money. What you do with that money, hopefully God honoring, and creates jobs for people and makes people better off, right? Human flourishing is what we're after here, people. Entrepreneurs may move to international markets to avoid industry regulations. You could be in a tough market where you're overly taxed and overly burdened with law and policy, that you can go somewhere else and operate more freely. Societal concerns about the product can be different from market to market. When an entrepreneur's technology becomes obsolete in domestic market, then there might be sales opportunities in foreign markets who are a little bit behind in terms of their technological advancement. Going global may take advantage of lower costs in foreign countries for labor, overhead, and raw materials. Just make sure you're doing that in an ethical manner, please. Strategic effects of going global. One major effect centers on the concept of proximity to a firm's customers and ports. Again, that's that distribution channel. Some factors can make a foreign market that is geographically close seem psychologically distant. So think of like the distance envisioned by an entrepreneur may be more of a matter of your perception versus reality. If their distribution channel can't handle moving things 50 miles. 50 miles might be like 500 miles here. Closer psychological proximity makes it easier to enter a market if you understand it better, if you get the culture. There are more similarities than differences between individual entrepreneurs, regardless of country. They have a lot of the same attributes. So how do we go about foreign market selection? Well, you base the market selection on past sales and competitive positioning, and assess and rank each foreign market alternative. Because you think about it, it's like a lot of countries in the world. Which one do you really want to go after? Which ones do you avoid? And which ones do you want to go after first? One method employs a 5-step approach as follows. Develop appropriate indicators. So are we looking at growth indicators here, economics? Are we looking at politics? Are we looking at social aspects, etc.? Are we looking at technology? There's your PEST. Collect data and convert into comparable indicators, and this can help you differentiate between foreign markets that you want to enter. You can establish an appropriate weight for each indicator. Kind of sounds like we're about to do multiple regressions here. We're not. We're just looking at all the factors. You can analyze the data. So maybe if you can, take a statistics class and do some multiple regression, you can throw everything in an Excel spreadsheet and it can tell you factually which one to go after. That's a whole different class though. Deep breaths. Select the appropriate market given your own developed market rankings. So what are your entrepreneurial entry strategies here? And again, we're going really fast, and this is a 30,000-foot overview of a chapter you got to read, so make sure you're doing it. You got your entry strategies as an entrepreneur. You can do exporting. Indirect exporting involves the least amount of risk using an export management firm, so you partner with somebody over there and their purchasing office for your commodity. You can direct export. Okay, so you kind of have like a handler in the first one. You can direct export, where you can use independent distributors and overseas sales offices. That requires little financial commitment, but you got a little more skin in the game there. Non-equity arrangements, you can license your product or service, and you can use that where there's no intent to export or have to deal with it yourself. You just license your McDonald's over there, or you license your new technology for somebody to sell over there. You sell it to someone who then turns around and sells it themselves. You can do turnkey projects where facilities are built in a foreign country and you're turned over to local owners for operations. So you go over there and build the thing and then they run it. Management contracts, which allow entrepreneurs to contract their management techniques and skills to a foreign purchasing company. So again, you got exporting where you just stay here and you send it over there. You got non-equity agreements where you may be involved in the physical building over there, but it's not yours, it's theirs. And then you have direct foreign investment, which ownership percentages hinges on the amount of money invested and the nature of the industry and rules of the host government. So you put a little more skin in the game with direct foreign investment and you have locations there. Now, direct foreign investment, again, is minority interest that allows an entrepreneur to gain a foothold and acquire experience in a market before committing. Joint ventures are used to purchase local knowledge or an established facility. It's kind of like a partnership when rapid entry is needed. Major interests, so you got minor interests, joint ventures. Major interest, or majority interest, I should say, is the purchase of over 50% of equity in a firm over in an international market. And then you have mergers. They're often difficult to assess. You have horizontal mergers, which are motivated by economies of scale. You have two companies coming together that are on equal level. Vertical merger offers control over supply and production. So you're either the controlling entity or the controlled entity. And the product extension merger is the acquired firm has related activities. So you partner up with somebody and it's an extension of what you do. So it's a silly example, but you make hot dog buns, they make hot dogs. You send in the hot dog buns, they put the hot dogs in it. That's a really silly example, but a much more likely explanation there is something in, say, automotive. You build the car, everything but the motor, but they put the motor in and they extend it, or they add something to an existing product or service down the line. That's a product extension merger. Market extension merger. Talking so fast, I can't talk anymore. Let's breathe. Market extension merger combines skills of the acquired firm. So you put things together, so you've merged. And then the diversified activity merger, an acquiring firm does not run the new company. It's just an extension of that. Companies like Samsung, Kawasaki, they have all these different divisions. They have like appliances, they have ATVs, they have phones, they have TVs. They have all these things, and they have nothing to do with one another. That's a diversified activity merger where they work with different companies and acquire and work together to produce a lot of different types of products all over the globe. So entrepreneurial partnering, one of the best entry methods is to partner with an entrepreneur in the targeted country. So you kind of team up. Again, remember before we said entrepreneurs have a lot in common regardless of where they are. They're all risk takers. They're all people who are willing to step out on their own. Foreign partners know the culture and can facilitate business transactions, so you kind of acquire that cultural knowledge and keep the entrepreneur current on conditions. A good partner can help the entrepreneur achieve their goals. Also takes a lot of the risk off of you, because if you have someone over there who understands the culture, who understands the government, who understands the economy, it's a great partner to have. They can immediately say, this will work, this won't work. Perhaps you should think about doing it this way. That's somebody good to have in a foreign market. Good partners should share. Good partners should share the entrepreneur's vision and will then be unlikely to exploit the partnership for their own benefit. So they're good partners, right? Aspects of international trade. You have the General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade. It's called GATT, a multilateral agreement liberalizing trade between eliminating tariffs and subsidies and import quotas. Definitely want you to read about that. It's something you probably learned a little bit about in macroeconomics or one of your accounting courses. Trade agreements in free trade areas. Free trade areas, FTAs, exist between the U.S. and Israel, between the U.S. and Canada. The North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, reduces the barriers and encourages investment. We're actually on the second version of NAFTA, and forgive me, the acronym I've lost now. That came in during the Trump administration, so that's been changed a little. The Mercosur trade zone exists between North and South American countries. Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, includes the U.S. and Japan and 10 other countries in Asia, so that you get preferred trade, less tariffs, which are just taxes on imports in a foreign country. And the European Community EC encourages supranationality, so a way to be able to trade with less barriers. Speaking of barriers, entrepreneur strategies and trade barriers. Trade barriers pose problems as they increase the cost of exporting. It's literally things countries sometimes put into place to protect domestic producers, whereas these agreements down here reduce those hurdles and allow for more trade, which generally speaking, economically speaking, makes people better off. Voluntarily export restrictions may limit the ability to sell products in a country. That's when you're assessing them, you want to be aware of that. So they won't take in as many products that are produced in facilities outside the country. Again, they're trying to protect their domestic producers. The entrepreneur may have to locate assembly or facilities. They may have to assemble or have their facilities in a country to conform with local content regulations, which can then affect of how you set up your partnership, if you direct invest or not. These are things you have to consider when you're doing your pest analysis and looking at the economics, the government, and the technology capabilities. So what's the implications of a global entrepreneur? The cultural, political, economic, and distribution systems of a country influence its attractiveness as a potential market and investment opportunity. The costs and political risks are lower in countries with that are more advanced economically and politically. You have less hurdles there, and the long-run benefits of the country's future growth and expansion can be quite phenomenal. That's why the U.S. is such a powerful economies, because it is a global economy. So that wraps up a quick overview of Chapter 5, identifying and analyzing domestic and international opportunities. Again, this does not replace the reading. Please don't think it replaces the reading. It's just a great, enjoyable overview of the chapter. I'll see you in the next one.